There were a couple of questions. One of the question was where we can find good material, and when we write the review, how to write the review, etc. At this point, I would like to share some tips which were given to me by my friend, Professor Brijesh from Pune. Brijesh sir told me that whenever you are sending your journal to any high-end journal, minimum, let's say B category or A category journal, first thing they will check for whatever review you have used. What is the standard of that review? Is it all from A star journals, or it is from any of the journal? Now there was somebody was asking the question that what about if it's a substandard one? If it's a substandard one, that work may be good, but you should not mention it in your paper. So how to know that what are the papers which are very good, cited highly, which we should write, or which compulsory which we should write in our area? Here there is a one excellent utility available. The name of the utility is Publish or Perish. It's a very small utility, a small software. You can download it, Publish or Perish. You can find download for Windows, download and install it. After installing, you will find things like this. So it will say, first thing, let me tell you, it will not give you the paper. If you are looking for that, it will give you paper. It will just give you information about that paper. So that paper you can look for from ResearchGate, academia.edu, mail to the authors. These are the ways, or if it's on the open source, Google Scholar. So this utility will search it on cross-reference means everywhere, or Google Scholar, Profile, PubMed, Web of Science, Scopus, specific or all. Like I have searched something like behavioral reasoning theory. I searched because it takes a lot of time. So there are some sort of, you can search on the basis of author. You can search on the basis of affiliation. You can search with the publication name, any journal name, titles, obviously, which we'll use maximum, keywords, year. Now this is important because otherwise it will be so big data, it will be very difficult for you. Recent should be given. So how recent, again, it's a debatable. I have given from 2000 onwards, from 2020, if any ISSN number. So it has given me number of papers. How many papers? I think 200 papers are there. These papers have been cited 1360 number of times. Citation per year is 64 and so on. These details are given. H index, H norm index is 18. Now you look for this first one, Peter Valley. The title is Towards a Unified Theory of Imprecise Probability, published in International Journal of Approximate Reasoning. This is the type, and it's been referred by 191. Now you can always change it. Like I want a recent one, just click on that. So from recent one, Aditya Kumar Sahu, you can see his paper is the most recent one, published in 2020 and cited by the 10 people. Likewise, you can look for the any sort of particular publication like behavioral and the brain science. These many papers are published in that, and so on. Maybe the country wise, maybe the book. These are the books one alphabetically. So you can search it on any of these, but I will advise, or as is advised by Professor Brijesh, that you should go ahead with the most cited paper must be mentioned in your review. So that means that your review is a good one and you know what are the highly cited paper. Again, it is not giving you the paper, it is giving you information about those papers. I searched for organization effectiveness. So it will search whatever, depending on, like it will take a little time. That's why I saved it. You can restrict it. You can stop it when it gives you something like 550, 100, etc. But you can make these sort of restrictions. It takes a little time in doing the thing because now it is fetching online. The software been updated time to time basis. I have what I am downloaded 7.28.3033. This is the version which I have downloaded just today morning. But whenever new version is there, you get an alert that new versions are available. So these are cited by 118 persons on organization effectiveness. This is for, so first thing is always look for the most cited paper in your area, and that must be there. Obviously, the relevant one should be there in your paper in the review, etc. Then coming to the next thing was this is Google Scholar. So if I'll search for behavioral reasoning theory here on Google Scholar, so you'll find on the just right hand side, you will find academia.edu, Science Direct. So all these links, this paper is available free of cost. So people even don't bother to check it on Google Scholar. You must search on the Google Scholar at least. And then see the links it is giving again, academia.edu, which I told you that if you go to the academia.edu, then not only this paper will be downloaded, rather it will not that you are interested in the paper. And whenever any new paper from the same author on the same topic from the same journal, it will always keep you in loop. It will tell you, well, these are the things if you want to, if you are interested in. And mind it, all of this is free of cost. Next thing we can go ahead. There was a query about can we combine two or more theories? Certainly, yes. Certainly, yes, you can combine the theory, but how you combine the theory? So one method, we simply say that there is a particular model, like Aditya told you, that there is a particular model like time. In the time you say, well, this is a new variable. I feel this should be included. Now, nobody will give any heap on that. That what do you think? What do you think? People are not really interested in that. Show the evidences for the same. Here, one of the very wonderful technique is meta-analysis. What meta-analysis technique does, and rather it's a really, really amazing technique. Number one, you work on the all secondary data. Number two, for meta-analysis, one of the necessary predecessor is structural literature review, SLR. So somebody asked that after SLR, do we compulsory have to go meta-analysis? Not really. There is no compulsion. But for meta-analysis, you necessarily require SLR. Meta-analysis basically how it started. Its genesis is again important. And I have made a complete playlist on the same. This playlist is available on YouTube. You can write Neeraj Kaushik meta-analysis and you will be able to see that. Let me show you that. So this is meta-analysis. There are two things. So one is meta-analysis. The second is meta-SEM. We will talk about the meta-SEM here, but meta-analysis is again interesting. Somewhere back, maybe some 50, 60 years back, United States government asks a particular question to the academicians, like, I don't remember the exact question. Let's say question is how much we should spend so that we get a more productivity, etc. Any question. So they said that people have been doing research from years and we have been giving the grants, etc. So many people are doing so many things. So what is the conclusion? If we give the grant, how much grant we should give, or whatever grant we have given, what is the output of that? How much people are, productivity is there? So when they search for, they find so conflicting results were there, they were not able to conclude anything. And they said that actually we have to make a policy, but when looking from this, there is no conclusive result. Some people are saying there is a positive result, others are saying there is a negative result, some say there is no result. So how to conclude and why we are giving the grant? And actually they propose that we should stop giving any grant to the academician. They're just passing their time. We can't, if we can't consolidate the result when it is required for the policy making, then what is the purpose? What's the fun? So this some of the professors take it very seriously. They said, yes, there must be some methodology. Two groups, they started working on it. So one was Smith, and there was one more group. So they started working on it, and the fundamental question they asked is, what is a measurement? How to measure something? We'll talk about that. And then ultimately lead to a technique called meta-analysis. So meta-analysis is a technique where you take the data from the previous researches. So 2-3 things are very important. What was their sample size? Who are the people, the year? That's only for the notational one. Otherwise, there is no purpose of the year. So who are the person, in which year he or she conducted a study? What were the variables? And what was the R? What was the relationship? Now, you may say that not everybody has reported the R. Somebody has reported t-test. Somebody has reported partial correlation or R square or something else. So it means the very first thing should be how to make everything as the same. Okay, there are the different units. So something is some person reported in t-test, other person reported in ANOVA, somebody reported in R square. So is there any common currency, common method? So yes, a new technique was developed or evolved that was called as effect size. So every single thing can be converted back to effect size. So those who refer to the book of Professor Andyfield, Discovering Statistics Using SPSS, they will find at the end of every chapter, compulsorily, Dr. Andyfield has talked about how to convert this particular statistics into effect size. So you can convert anything in the effect size. So we can say effect size is the currency of meta-analysis domain. So you may have worked with any statistics, convert that to effect size. From the effect size, we will enter into the meta-analysis and we will put a common relation. Now this meta-analysis, further, it's a complete word in its own. A higher level of that is the meta-SEM. So let me show you why meta-SEM. Actually, I have made a video that also, meta-analysis versus meta-SEM, where meta-SEM is required. So let me show you a paper about the same. The paper is Meta-Analysis of TAM, Technology Acceptance Modeling, Investigating Subjective Norm and Moderation Effect. It means the people want to say that we are working on the TAM model, but now we assume that in the TAM model, there's something, some addition must be done. So this is the TAM model. So it says there's a perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, attitude, behavioral intention, actual uses. Now these people are of the opinion that subjective norm should also be in a part of that. Now that's accepted, but it's a 2007 paper. They say it must be accepted. How will they go? How they propose it? And what is the basis that they say subjective norm should be added? So for that, they will go for the previous data, and they say we found out the studies where SN, subjective norm, is related with PU, perceived usefulness. 24 such studies they were able to find. So naturally, it will be natural extension of SLR. In the SLR, if you do always for a pair of variables, that means always for a particular relation. So they were able to identify 24 studies in which there was a study of a relation of subjective norm to perceived usefulness was proposed or studied. Out of these, 22 times R was significant and 2 times R was not significant. The minimum R was found to be 0.16, maximum 0.67. The range of the sample size, there were studies as low with 43 and as high as 471. Taken all 24 studies, their sample size was 4371 and average sample size was this. So they make table like this and they actually provided these details that sample category, respondent, population. So they provided like this. Now with it, they will use the structural equation modeling. Now there are certain steps you need to update the R. Concept of reliability is very important here. But after that, now one wonderful concept here is somebody has worked, let's say Aditya has worked, subjective norm and perceived usefulness are related. And Shraddha has worked, perceived usefulness leads to attitude. And Kuldeep has worked, attitude leads to behavioral intention. So what I can do, I can take all of their data, I can run my structural equation modeling. I can say subjective norm, if included, what overall model fit will be there and how the model will improve. That's an amazing, amazing thing. It means I need not to collect any data. Only from the people from the previous study, secondary data I will take. I will note down the R and then I will apply the structural equation modeling using the Amos software. So data entry is done in a different way. There is a complete procedure for that. And it always gives you, for example, just see there, they say subjective norm has relation with this. Now this is the same output which is given by the Amos. And then they will put it, a very significant relationship was observed. Hence, now we have all the reasons to believe that subjective norm should be a part of, integral part of TAM. Now, when we say subjective norm should be integral part, how do you know the model improved? So there is something called the model fit indicators or C-mean by DF. Those who know about the Amos must be knowing what I'm saying. So there is some sort of discrepancy, and the rule is if discrepancy go down significantly, it means your model has improved. So from the previous data, you say, I'm not saying anything. These are all published work. This is just a technique to synthesize the secondary data and then find out whether there is any relationship or not. In the process, you may actually find that attitudes leads to behavioral intention that was not significant, or this was significant. So many other things as byproduct you will also take. So I always say that when you propose your work, if you are submitting your proposal, before that proposal, now the correct sequence is you select a area or topic, you identify your variables, go for the review of literature, preferably for the SLR. Now I know that some of you will say, well, we wish to go to for SLR, but we don't have the necessary resources. I don't have the username password of the Scopus. I don't have the Web of Science or other things available. How can I do that? Answer is simple: make teams, make the networking. So generally you will find people working in area. It's a very less when the two people are working. Generally you will find 7 people, 6 people, they work in one area. And in the meta-analysis scenario or SLR, generally it is advisable there should be 3 persons and 2 person will do separately, as if they will have the inclusion exclusion criteria which Aditya shared with you. They will have the keywords, journals, years from this to this, inclusion exclusion criteria, and 2 persons will work separately, compulsory. So somebody asked a question of duplication. Not only duplication of paper, there will be duplication of the people also. The same thing will be done by 2 people, just to see whether 2 people are able to get to same result or not. In case they do not get the same result, so there will be a brainstorming session. They will convince each other why I have taken or why I have not taken this. So when all are on board, then meta-analysis should be started. So this is more than 2 persons doing separately SLR is a mandatory process of the SLR. Number one, it will, that won't be that painstaking for 1 person, and at the same time, verification, validation will be there. So make this teams. There was another question: how can we talk to the foreign authors and how will they agree? See, the question basically, if the purpose is simply to get the publication, that's not a good idea, and nobody will join you. If your purpose is simply there are the few people who are fantastic in writing the paper, by using their name, my paper is published. Well, see, it's okay, you want to work with them, but why they will work with you? So what's so special in you? So it's see, your intentions are very, very important. Recently, one of my niece got selected in London Business School. So I asked her that, how come? Do you know anyone there? She told, no, I don't know anyone. I said, well, how come? So she said, see, the point is this, what we've been told, she's from, I think, ISB. She told me the procedure. She said, I just gone through the website of that particular institute, looked for the professor who worked in my area, identified this is the professor I want to work with, went through all of his or her papers, and then write a mail. And I also worked in that area. Obviously, I selected that person who worked in my area or our areas, they match. And then write a paper that I have written this paper, this is my profile, I have gone through your paper, and this is my critical review, etc. When you send such mail to a person, it means you are interested, you have done your homework, and you present your candidature. You will be selected. If you simply write a mail that I want to write paper with you, nobody will reply. Nobody will reply such mails because they must be getting these mails in hundreds every day. So purpose should not be just to get a publication by somebody's assistance. That's not the point. Point is make a team. And when you make a team has to be long term. Now, what Aditya told you, he's working on the behavioral reasoning theory. He already had 2-3 publications. Now it means he must continue working in this. It doesn't make sense. Now Aditya started working on, let's say, women entrepreneur. After 2 years, he started working on something else. That will lead nowhere. So what you need to do, choose one area, work only in that area. So one thing which Aditya quickly shown, it was first he wrote our paper on SLR. He proposed a model. And in the second paper, he worked on that model, checked it empirically and get it published. In the third, he will again work on this model, maybe using meta-analysis, propose something new. So that will answer your question of how to connect the various theories. Yes, how to connect the theories. Theories can be connected. See, I am a person from statistics. My area is statistics, and I always ask you, please take variable as a person. Always take a variable as a person. Just like the people, we never live alone. We always live in a societal bonding called family, called friends, social circle. Just like us, our variables also live in some sort of family. So it's very improbable you will read about the leadership, and very soon you won't find motivation around that. The word motivation will necessarily come when you start reading about the leadership. The word personality will come. The other things will come. Politics will come. Performance will come. So it means just think of whenever leadership is there, these other friends, family members will always be there. Now start thinking about it. When you read the different papers, you find that somebody has proposed this theory, other has proposed this theory. Check it. Is there any variable common in that? And can you make a comprehensive model that there must be some connector for the two theory? You cannot say I am connecting as a theory of physics with theory of the psychology. Maybe, but again you require some sort of connector when see this is the common thing. That's why these and these will come together. And that's meta-analysis plays a fantastic role in that. So use meta-analysis. What for? What is the purpose? The purpose of the meta-analysis is it will give you rationale for the study. Instead of saying simply that this is the study and this is the variable I want to find the relation with, instead of that, say I just gone through the meta-analysis and this was the result I found. So I propose this theory should be empirically tested. Mind it, you have just shown using some tools and techniques. People have worked 40-50 people. The minimum paper published, the one paper published with the minimum number of study I have seen is something like 30 or 24 even. Please search for one person, Professor Nirpendra Rana. So he is a wonderful person and who has written extensively in the area of meta-analysis, particularly in the marketing domain. He is a professor, probably in London or France, but his work is remarkable. So meta-analysis gives you necessary need for the study. Nobody can, overrule that. That relation is not there. But at the same time, I'm not saying just by taking the different field, if your model is coming good, it means in real life it will come good. Not necessary. So it means what you will do, you will say, I have done meta-analysis. I feel there is a relationship. And now let me propose this. Let me do it in my work. That's a very solid need for the study. There was another question. One girl asked that it's been 10 days. I'm searching for the research gap. That's a fantastic question. Again, my friend, Professor Brijesh, shared with me a pic. Just look at this pic. There are the 7 sort of the gaps, 7 sort of the research gaps. Just let's quickly go through that. I have shared this image with Kuldeep, and I asked him that you can share it with all the participants. The first one is the evidence gap. Evidence gap means contradictory evidences are there. So that proposes a gap. Some people say A leads to B. Some people say no, A have a negative impact on B. So how can I conclude it? There are the separating and conflicting evidences are there from the different studies, not able to conclude, then that's an evidence gap. Knowledge gap. Knowledge gap means what I want to know does not available. I want to know how this will be done. No idea, nothing. So that's a knowledgeable gap. Practical knowledgeable gap. It means there are some established techniques, but professional people are not using it. Though just like Aditya, I am again not from the field of finance, but I always ask my students of finance that when you go for summer internship, always check. You've been taught debt equity ratio should be such, asset liability ratio should be such, all ratio analysis, there is some sort of standard figure. So when you go for summer internship, do check it out, use their data for last 2, 3, 4, 5 years and check, are they maintaining it ratio? If not, then why so? Books say this ratio should be there, and if the corporate people are not maintaining those ratio, why it is so? That is called as the practical knowledge gap. That means the professional or the practices, they deviate from the research finding, and this is not covered in the research. Means something else, books are not updated, perhaps something else is also there. Next is the methodological gap. Methodological gap means research methods necessary to generate. So just like I told you about the meta-analysis, or there is a bibliometric analytics, or there is some other new techniques. So use those techniques, and if we arrive at the same point, fantastic. If we talk about, now we are talking about getting up to the B or A category. If you wish to go for A star, please look for, there has to be data collected from at least 2 or 3 sources. From simply survey method, you will not be able to get published. Why so? You can have a survey from anywhere, and that will give you totally different results. That doesn't matter. Even from the same sort of the people, after 1 month, if you take the data, the results may be totally opposite. So you will find the people will say there, we have conducted a survey, then we conducted an experiment, and we have also gone for the qualitative research. And the result of the all three indicate almost the same thing. It's correct. So it means don't underestimate qualitative research. Some of the, I don't know why somehow it become qualitative versus quantitative. No, it's not versus, it's plus quantitative. You do qualitative and then you do quantitative also. And that is possible only when you stay in one area for a long time. If you keep on hopping, then nothing can be done. If you stay in one area, you will do qualitative research also, quantitative also, experiments also, longitudinal study also, then you can conduct all sort of this. That is methodological gap. A simple thing I tell you, if you want to learn about, let's say psychology, one thing how it actually operates, longitudinal studies are better than the cross-sectional studies, because cross-sectional, the point is how will you ensure the person is giving you correct response. Might be person is just faking, or just person was not interested. So in longitudinal study, when you note down the same person again and again, then number of things you will note down by observation also. Just look for, you conduct an interview, and in the 40 minutes you need to decide how this person, this employee will be. Part A, cross-sectional. You work with that employee for the 6 months. You are not taking interview any day, every day, but simply being with the person, observing, you will get a better understanding of that person. And then conduct some experiments. If I'll create this situation, how this person will react. If I do this, how this person will react. So that is experimental. Experimental is better than longitudinal, better than cross-sectional. I'm not saying that this is better in terms of like you should not conduct cross-sectional. My simple point is that if you stay in one area for long, you get some insights also. So that's methodological. Empirical gap. Empirical gap means research finding need to be evaluated or empirically verified. Somebody has given a theory. Aditya discussed about the theory of planned behavior, behavioral reasoning theory. Now there is a theory given. Let me check, is there any empirical evidence? Empirical is a word from sciences, physics and chemistry. Empirical, you remember there was an empirical formula for everything in physics and chemistry. Empirical say if your assumptions are the same and you do one thing again and again, every single time you will get the same result. So if we say F is equal to MA, you do it 100 times, result will be same. If you say PV is equal to nRT, pressure, volume, temperature, if all the assumptions are the same, every time the same result will come. So it means, so the empirical word means on the basis of our experience, practical working. We also conduct the same. So we'll say we can collect the data and then we'll try to see that what is happening. Then comes the theoretical gap. Theoretical gap means there is some lack of theory, or there is a gap exists, or you are connecting the 2 or more theories to get into the new insights. So there the theoretical gap will come. And finally, the population gap, which most of the scholars, they go ahead. A study was done in Indore, not done in Mumbai. So let me do a study in Mumbai. Well, that's okay. That's okay. You find out that these relationship work in the Mumbai also, but there is no real knowledge. You just verified it. That's okay. So these are the sort of the various gaps that exist. Try to think in terms of the gap. Try to mention these gaps in your work. This particular picture I will share. The source is given at the last. It's Robinson 2011, shared with me by Professor Brijesh. So let me check your questions. Gaps I have told, for an authors I have told, combining 2 theories I have done. Okay.